Got me on a Wednesday again. Hey everyone, you know something? Written recipes won't teach you to cook any more than having sheet music is going to teach you how to play piano. And for home cooks, there are 16 cooking rules that you should never follow, even if the cookbook or the TV show tells you to, because they're ruining your cooking. It's the 16 cooking rules you should never follow today on the Carefree Cooks Code. I'm Chef Todd Moore, and this is the Carefree Cooks Code, every Tuesday live at noon Eastern. Here's our challenge. How can home cooks cook freely with creativity, confidence, and pride while ignoring recipes and still impressing themselves and others with what they cook? Well, the answer is found in becoming empowered with how cooking works, using dependable and repeatable methods of cooking that work for any ingredient, for any diet, and any desire, just like chefs do. And we'll know we've cracked it when everyone sees cooking as an exciting and rewarding way to improve their relationships, their lifestyles, and their health through better food and cooking. This is the Carefree Cooks Code. Hey, welcome back to the Carefree Cooks Code, everyone. There I am. Tuesdays. Hey, welcome back to the Carefree Cooks Code, everyone. It's the weekly show with tech problems about the methods, techniques, and insights into better food and cooking. We're live every Tuesday at noon Eastern once I can get it going. And if you're looking for any past videos, look on the archive on Facebook. It's facebook.com/chef.todd.moore/videos. And if you want to see what I'm cooking when we're not live together, want to know how I did it, most often you'll find that on Instagram /Chef Todd Moore. It's rockfish season here on the Northern Neck. Butter sauteed rockfish with shrimp and cheddar shrimp and grits side and nice steamed string beans there. How do you just make up meals like that? Well, I'm a carefree cook, you see. I create my own recipes, yeah. I bring friends and family together, I learn every time I cook, check. I create my own cooking style, oh yeah, because I practice pro methods, do preach, and I love my cooking, tell the truth. Look, you know why we're back together again, right? Okay, yeah, we like each other very much. I like you a lot. I think about Carefree Cooks. I think about how I can help you a lot. And I get the feeling you like me because you show up here all the time. And we love spending 30 minutes together every Tuesday. But that's not why. And that's not why we're together today. I'm here to warn you. I'm here because there is another threat to home cooks everywhere, something that is ruining meals all over the world, and I have got to make it stop. I'm here to rescue you today, to save you from a terrible way of thinking in the kitchen. But first, I've got a what am I for you today. What am I? Tell me in the comments section below, please. What do we got there? 203.760, what? Anyway, give me the what am I in the comments below. I'll give you the answer at the end. So, hey, happy Tuesday, everyone. I'm really excited when we get together again. And I love when the seasons change, too, because changing of seasons means changing of cooking also. I mean, you've seen it. I've been popping up. I've been streaming live 6 days a week for the past month or so. And you've seen how my cooking changes from being outdoors on the grill to being indoors, right? And we've been talking about how to use the flavors of fall in your cooking. I hope you've added a few more of those into your repertoire. But no matter how your cooking changes for the season, no matter what you decide to cook, I can tell you've been misled. And I might even say that you've been lied to, because there are a whole bunch of very old, antiquated cooking rules, ideas, myths, misconceptions about how cooking works that have led home cooks down the wrong path for years. I've gone ahead and identified the 16 cooking rules that might be ruining your cooking. And these are the 16 cooking rules that you should never follow. So let's get to it. The first rule that you should break right now is cooking by time. Oh my goodness. Cook for 20 minutes. Saute for, around 3 to 5 minutes. How do they know? How do they know how hot my stove gets? How do they know what kind of pan I'm using? How do they know how thick my food is compared to their foods. Wherever a recipe has this written, ignore it. And wherever this recipe was written in some test kitchen, it wasn't your kitchen. The test kitchen is inherently different than your kitchen. All kitchens have unique qualities that make following recipes difficult from the very start. This is the first rule that you should never follow. If different pans were used to heat at different rates, how can you cook by time? Common sense will tell you that one chicken breast that's twice as thick as the second will take longer to cook. If all chicken breasts are different sizes, how can you cook by time? All stoves heat differently. How can a recipe written command you to cook by time? It's a rule to never follow. Cook with your eyes, don't cook with a clock. Rule number 2 that you do not have to follow anymore is when you're told to use a specific pan or a specific piece of equipment. I mean, what do I do if I don't own a glass casserole pan that's exactly 9 by 17? Right? Can you use a 9 by 17 pan that's made out of aluminum instead? Oh, can I use a glass pan that's smaller? Does it really matter that much? Oh my goodness, is the recipe going to be ruined because my pan is an inch shorter than what they tell me? Well, glass is a very poor conductor of heat, but it retains heat very well. So in other words, it takes a long time to get hot, but it also takes a long time to cool down. And this is great for keeping your casseroles hot during the neighborhood potluck dinner or things that you may be visiting this holiday season, but it's actually a detriment in baking. While the size pan that the recipe tells you is an indicator of the resulting volume of the ingredients you put together, you can pick any pan you want. I mean, certainly a corn muffin recipe can be made into cornbread just by switching the pan, right? Does that mean that the recipe is not going to work? You can't make muffins out of this recipe. You can only make square things. It's silly. I don't ever listen to recipes that command a specific pan or a specific piece of equipment. It's a rule I never follow. Rule number 3 is listening to unquantifiable measurements and terms. This makes my head explode. 1 onion chopped. Oh my goodness. I've seen onions the size of grapefruits. I've seen onions the size of cherries. This 1 onion that you want me to chop, how big is it? Given that range, what is a medium onion? 1 medium onion, chopped. Medium? Are you kidding? The best, the most wholesome ingredients, they're not consistent. They're not made, onions aren't made in a factory. They're all different sizes, and recipes that call for an ingredient by a relative size are just aligning you for instant disappointment. Onions, garlic, peppers, celery, carrots, broccoli, even pea-sized peas can be a wide range of sizes that the recipe never takes into account. Even if I have an onion that I consider perfectly medium, that is a perfect specimen of a medium onion, I'm still going to use as little or as much onion as I desire for that dish. I might only use half of that medium onion. So how can you be expected to cook just like the recipe says when all the ingredients are different sizes? Don't ever follow a recipe that has a rule or an amount that you can't quantify, that you can't tell exactly how much. Fourth are the vague warnings, the instructions that sound like cooking rules, but they're impossible to follow. Don't overmix. Don't overcook. Cook until done. That's my favorite. Cook until done. It's not that I love to overmix things, not that I'm dying to overcook it. I'm just not sure what this means in a recipe. Overmixing is relative. In a yeast dough product, you want to mix for extended periods of time to develop gluten. But a cake should not be chewy. Cake mixing is a lot more delicate process of combining ingredients, forming an emulsification without developing gluten. These are 2 totally different methods, but throwing one don't overmix on them is insulting. Being able to identify the visual cues of overmixing. Tell me what overmixing looks like. This will give you better results that you can duplicate again and again. And a recipe will also contradict itself. Often a recipe will say, mix for 8 to 10 minutes, but don't overmix. Well, which is it? What if I mix for 6 minutes and the batter looks perfect and I haven't reached 8 minutes? Should I mix another 2 minutes just to get to 8? Do I run the risk of over mixing? What if it only takes 5 minutes? Do I have to keep going? Is there someone I can call about this? I never listen to vague warnings from a written recipe. It's a rule to just ignore. They don't know what they're talking about. Rule number 5 that you should never follow is a specific cut of meat or a specific ingredient. Look, I have control over the ingredients that I want to include in my cooking. If a recipe calls for onions and I want to use shallots, I just do it. There's no food police that comes to your door and takes you away if you don't follow a recipe. Chicken marsala can be made with boneless breasts, cubed thigh meat, bone in. Beef stroganoff can utilize sliced beef from a round cut. You can even make ground beef into stroganoff. I use the ingredients that I like most, or the ones that I just have on hand, because I never let a recipe drive me out to the grocery store to buy more stuff that I didn't already have in my house. That's what this does. It drives you to the grocery store. If you become familiar with families of ingredients, then you can make substitutions. And then you can get really creative, and then you swap spinach for escarole. You swap carrots for daikon. You get yourself an ostrich steak instead of beef. Recipes are really just one person's opinion of how something should be cooked. And there's no rule forbidding you from changing every one of the ingredients. Now, baking is precise in its ingredients, but you do not have to measure things in cooking. Cooking is different. And it's the 6th rule you can go ahead and ignore because your mouth is going to tell you the truth. To experience true freedom in cooking, forget measurements. Your cooking should be guided by how your food tastes and looks. You've got this thing here that has all kinds of senses on it that will repeat back to you whether it's good or not, the same way your ears will do for music or your eyes will do for art. In your desire to complete the dish as the recipe defines it, you're probably being distracted from the art of cooking. Going back and forth from the cookbook to the stove, you're being prevented from enjoying and developing your kitchen skills. I mean, come on. Will 1 tablespoon of soy sauce instead of a half tablespoon really ruin your dish? Not if you like soy sauce more than the recipe author. Or you learn how to fix it if there's too much soy sauce, if it's too salty. This obsessive concern over precise measurements in cooking is absolving yourself of the responsibility. Look, you can always say, I did all the measurements and it's the recipe's fault. The recipe didn't work. Well, look, I'm sorry. The recipe is never going to work. It's up to you to interpret it to your liking. So take back control, stop measuring in your cooking, and don't follow this dumb rule that takes away your creativity. 7th, you don't have to use a specific name brand product. When a recipe commands a specific name brand, just ignore it. You don't need Philadelphia cream cheese. You don't need Campbell's soup. Look, I shop for ingredients for different reasons than the recipe author might. Cooking Light magazine, let's say, will have a different approach to jambalaya when Zatarain's rice is an advertiser and their audience is the calorie conscious. But if I go over to Low Country Cooking magazine, it'll also have a jambalaya recipe and might recommend Billy Bob's Fatback to start frying it in, right? Different audiences, so be suspicious of any recipe that tells you got to buy a certain product, because it doesn't matter. Next, you can also ignore the order of the ingredients in a recipe. This is a rule that you don't have to follow. Recipes often confuse the order of cooking with the priority of ingredients, and neither have anything to do with creating truly amazing meals. Changing the order of the ingredients in cooking is one of the ways to control the final flavor, the final texture of your meal. Like the use of garlic, okay, is an excellent example. If you saute raw garlic in hot oil as the first step of a recipe, The garlic is going to be subdued. All right, it's going to be sweeter. It's going to be toasty. However, if you add minced raw garlic at the very end of your cooking, you're going to get a sour, very pungent flavor, right? So I decide which flavor I want in my creation. I don't have to set out for the destination that the recipe is pointing to. I can do what I want. The 8th rule reminds me that I can change the path to success. I can ignore the rule that tells me what order to proceed in. All right, we're halfway through the 16 rules. How am I doing so far? Is this blowing your mind a little bit? Is some of these things coming back to you? Can you hear your mom or your grandma telling you some of these rules? It's okay. They all did. All moms, grandmas, grandpas, in my case, Grandpa Milton Moore was a big influence on my cooking. But look, they didn't know any better. But now we do. Now we can decide how and what we cook and what we eat, not listen to some ancient myths. So let's move on. Number 9 is a rule that's ruined more dinners than perhaps any other. It's the rule that a recipe will tell you about cooking things together at the same time. I ignore this rule all the time because it defies logic. So recipes that tell me to saute the onion and the garlic, recipes that tell me to cook onion, celery, carrots together, miss the fact that they're different ingredients, but they're being treated coldly as the same. Look, carrots are much harder than celery. Garlic cooks much more quickly than onions in the same pan, and thus, if I were to follow this rule, I would always have burnt garlic and crunchy onions in my dish. I always add ingredients to anything I'm cooking separately, assuring that everything is cooked right to the level I want before I proceed, and I preserve nutrition and I get the right doneness. That's why the best stir fries, they utilize a blanching or par cooking process. Steam all the broccoli, steam all the carrots, cook everything perfectly, and then throw them all together in the wok. That's the best way to do it. But rules that tell you to combine ingredients take away your ability to cook things well, and you don't ever have to follow them. Rule number 10, we can ignore this one too, and if you have been with me since 2008 when I started teaching online, you might have heard me say this more than once. Don't cook with water. Don't cook with water. Water is the most flavorless thing on the planet, next to air, unless you live in Los Angeles. It has a nice chunky flavor. Look, I wouldn't follow an instruction that advised me to use water in any recipe any more than I would follow a recipe that told me to add air. I always cook with broth, stock, liquors, things that you can create very quickly. The ends of your broccoli stems become a stock very quickly, and they add flavor to the cooking rather than remove flavor from your foods. Shrimp poached in water makes the shrimp taste like water, and the water tastes like shrimp. It's simple. Notice how when you cook your carrots in water, the water's now orange. That's where so much of the flavor and nutrition of the carrots went to the water that you pour down the sink. You'll drown in bland dishes if you follow any rule that tells you to cook with water. The 11th rule that you might be following by mistake is the one that commands you to season to taste. Huh? Season to taste? This is where recipes aren't just leading you astray. They might actually be trying to kill you. I don't season or taste anything until the dish is finished. I've had recipes that have you tasting marinades with raw ingredients. That's just plain dangerous. If your pasta sauce simmers for 2 hours, it's not going to help you to taste it in the first 15 minutes. Through reduction, through evaporation of liquids, the flavors are going to change, they're going to move, they're going to intensify. This rule would have you putting basil and oregano into a pasta sauce and then simmering it for hours to create a different flavor than you tasted an hour earlier. So I'll create a dish for a specific flavor early in the cooking process with the best ingredients, with the aromatic vegetables, and then I season at the end to make sure that the dish is balanced. Any rule that has me guessing at seasonings before I adjust for the final dish is pretty much a useless rule. Number 12 would have you paying attention to the photo instead of the method. Don't ever pay attention to a recipe photo. If you're trying to create a dish to look just like the photo, you're going to be wasting a lot of food and a lot of time. I got news for you. The photo was taken in a photo studio with a food stylist. The recipe was written in the test kitchen. The two never meet. And they set you up for poor expectations and disappointment. There is no rule that says your cooking has got to look like the photo. So don't follow it. It sets you up for failure and just disappointment. Similarly, you don't have to pay attention to the title of a recipe or the adjectives you use. The lucky 13th rule that you should not follow is cooking for the title. Zesty chicken isn't zesty until my particular taste buds, my palate tells me so. Titles of recipes are often descriptors, and they make the instructions sound very exciting, but they shouldn't be confused with a guaranteed desired outcome. Quick and easy chicken is often neither quick nor easy. And the shortcuts that they put in there to make it so don't make it taste much like chicken either. So it's neither chicken nor quick nor tasty just because the recipe title says so. Recipe titles build your expectations falsely, and this rule should be ignored. Okay, we're almost there. The oldest myth in all of cooking is coming up next. It's rule number 14 that would have you poking, guessing, gashing the items open to tell if they're done. There's only one way to quantifiably tell if your steak is done, and it's not by poking your palm. There's only one way to tell if it's cooked to your liking, and that has to do with a thermometer. Because this whole thing of touching your palm or touching your cheek or your lip and then you touch the steak, it's ridiculous. Everybody's hands are different. Everybody's cheeks are different, meaning, and I used to do this in culinary school. If somebody told me, oh yeah, you touch your, I was like, yeah, come here. The two of you up at the stove right now. If I put two people side by side and put the same steak on the grill for doneness, maybe the larger dude, oh no, that steak is rare. The skinny guy is going to be going, oh, it's well done. Same steak, right? A digital instant read thermometer is the only way to tell when your items are cooked perfectly. And I've said this 1,000 times. You know, people have that sleep number bed. They have a sleep number, the adjustable bed. I don't have a sleep number. I don't really care. I have a steak number. That's more important to me. Using a thermometer, my steak is perfectly cooked at 128 degrees Fahrenheit. That's how I like it. Comes out the same way every single time. I ignore silly wives' tales that tell me about my cheek or my palm, and I go get a thermometer and get a steak number. All right, the next thing you can totally forget about in recipes is about yields. Number 15 is a recipe that tells you serves 6 to 8 people. Well, as a chef that does portions and costs and puts a lot of numbers to food, the difference between 6 and 8 is 25%. And immediately you have a considerable margin for error. So knowing your basic family portions, knowing the portions that you cook that everybody eats, this is going to immediately empower you to ignore this rule, this observing of yields, because there are standard portions for just about every adult. We've talked about this in great detail before, and we will, as a matter of fact, with the holidays coming up, within the next few weeks, we'll be talking about portioning. So know your portions, know exactly how much everybody eats, and you can ignore the rule about yields, which are so wide and vague. Lastly, yay, we're here. Lastly, the 16th cooking rule that you should never follow is about using processed, altered, fake food items. Why bother cooking with an engineered ingredient? The true and enjoyable flavor of real foods cannot be duplicated, can't be sacrificed for a false health goal. That's what I'm talking about. Many of these ingredients that are low calorie, that are making promises to you, they have been shown to have the exact opposite effect of what they promise. The more you crave fat, or keep you hungry as your body tries to decipher what the heck you just ate. I was talking about this with Heather yesterday. Pam spray, right? People talk about these food sprays, and okay, it's a 0 fat or a 0 calorie, but read the ingredients. Your body doesn't know what to do with Pam spray, and it makes you fatter than butter. Half the amount of real butter is going to have 4 times the true flavor in a dish as twice as much margarine. Don't use fake ingredients, composed, processed meats, formed chicken cutlets. They're loaded with salt, fillers. They give you less than 100% meat in your meat. And, additionally, cooking is a scientific endeavor. Fats are used in sauté to transfer heat from the pan to the ingredient. Pam spray, nonstick spray doesn't do that. Fats have different smoke points. They break down at different temperatures. They render flavors. Margarines burn very quickly. Don't ever use a margarine for sauté. It reacts with the food differently. Fake meats don't render fats for a flavorful sauté. Fake composed items, processed foods, they're not going to be a basis for a good pan sauce either. So the rule of using a fake ingredient as an endeavor toward health, toward convenience, or even cost should be immediately ignored. Use half the amount of real ingredient instead of twice the amount of fake ingredient. It might be calorie-free, but there's something else in there making it do that, and your body doesn't know how to deal with it. That's what I'm saying. Because look, the recipe card deck is stacked against you. And we've all had these recipes that just didn't come out right. Oh, that recipe didn't come out right. It's because the rules that they present are inconsistent, they're vague, they're unquantifiable, they're highly variable, they're very wasteful, and ultimately they're extremely disappointing. So if your mom or your grandma didn't teach you to cook, you're unfortunately left to recipe books and celebrity chefs on TV. But the problem is none of these actually teach you how to cook. They let you watch what they're cooking. They don't ever teach you how to cook. And I've said it 100 times. The Food Network is the MTV of food. You're like me. Do you remember when MTV used to play music? Now they're entertainment about music. And the Food Network is entertainment about food. They don't teach anybody to cook. And I've seen the change made in thousands of people's lives when they focus on the how, when they learn how to cook. And I'm not talking about following recipes and spending a lot of money on cookbooks. What I mean is there's a great freedom in understanding the basic methods that go into cooking. So when you learn how to saute, then you can use chicken or shrimp or tofu or beef or vegetables or mushrooms. It's all the same. You don't need 6 recipes for 6 different ingredients. The method is the same. And being able to cook by method means you never have to have the stress of trying to figure out what's for dinner ever again, because you can cook anything with the ingredients that you have on hand. You'll never have the frustration of written recipes not working out. You'll save money on takeout food. You'll improve your nutrition. You'll gain a new hobby. You'll reunite your family over the dinner table. You may entertain for friends. You're going to gain confidence. You're going to eat a greater variety of food, and you'll have a skill for a lifetime. So ignore these antiquated and misleading rules of cooking. Learn how cooking works, and a whole new lifestyle is going to open up for you. Let's get back quickly to today's What Am I? The What Am I for today? What the heck does that say? 3.78 liters, looks like a liter bottle, 768 teaspoons, 256 tablespoons, or 16 cups. It equals a gallon. That's 1 gallon. Yeah, you see how easy our imperial system is here? We should have gone to metric long ago. Hey, look, do you know someone who's following ancient, antiquated cooking rules and they just don't know why? They don't know any better. Please like, love, share this video with those people so they can become truly free in their cooking as well. And speaking of pride, there's nothing more pride-provoking to me in the kitchen than being able to come up with an endless number of dinner ideas at a moment's notice. And if you'd like to know how I do it, how I get 5 times more variety and 5 times more flavor into my cooking, I'm going to share that powerful pro practice that will get you the same results. It all has to do with something that every culinary college student is taught, but very few home cooks ever know about. And once you know what they know, then you'll have more flavor and more variety in your cooking. Go to webcookingclasses.com/5 times to pick a class time that's right for you. So until we meet next Tuesday at noon Eastern, I want you to do something for me. I want you to be a little bit of a rebel this week. How many cooking rules have you been following, but you don't know why you've been following them? Can you break this week? I want you to be a rule breaker. And remember, there's a method to your cooking success. Bye, everyone.